Good morning, and welcome to the 2010 Convocation of the College. What have we learned about student learning? The title of this year's Convocation reflects the college's renewed emphasis on student learning within the context of the new freshman academies and heightened concerns here and across higher education on the assessment of student learning. It is particularly gratifying that in today's agenda, a strong sense of collaboration informs every line. Back on October 20, when I presented in this room on the direction the institution would take on assessment, the underlying principle I suggested as essential was a culture of collaboration. The freshman academies bring this emerging culture into focus. Today's convocation celebrates this emerging culture, a collaboration among faculty and across disciplines, between academic affairs and student affairs, between faculty and freshman coordinators, and between everyone and students. Of course, the most important collaboration of all. Today we have an opportunity to take a first look at these collaborations and at the carefully considered assessment measures that faculty and the institution have begun to make, all congruent with and in the spirit of the general education objectives that inform all curricula on campus and for whose fulfillment our students strive. We also take a first look at the Academy Assessment Protocol, a concerted effort to examine the academies purposefully and comprehensively, and in a context of evaluation, discussion, and deliberative change. In the spring semester, my office will meet with the faculty cohorts in each academy to discuss the results of the rubrics used in the fall in conjunction with the other results from surveys and administrative data. We look forward to conversations about student learning informed by these results and data. More will come as the semesters unfold. This is a work in progress, one that promises to be both informative and energizing. In some ways, the work has only just begun. In other ways, substantive progress has already been made. A new culture of collaboration is emerging, dynamic, interdisciplinary, and clearly cognizant that the discussion about the assessment of student learning is not extraneous to the classroom, but directly relevant and meaningful to it. And now I'd like to introduce the president of Queensborough Community College, Dr. Eduardo J. Martí.
Thank you and welcome, everyone. Can you hear me with this? I want to congratulate all of you because truly I believe that this college is at a crossroads. I believe that the job of the faculty and the job of the administrators, maybe a more elegant way of saying it is that the scope of work, if you will, of the administration and the scope of work of the faculty, it's developing and is more clearly defined than I have ever seen in my long experience with community colleges. And let me just talk a little bit about that, because I believe that, as I said, we are at a very important point in the history of our college. I believe very strongly that the job of any administration, whether it be finances, whether it be development, whether it be student affairs, whether it be academic administration, but the scope of work of an administration is to provide a stable environment for the faculty and for the college to be able to be creative. I think that in many colleges across this land, there's a pull and tug as to who has more control, who has more power, who has more say in where the college is going. And what I think most colleges lose perspective of is that the power really doesn't lie in one or another, but the power really lies in the collaboration of everyone. And that's very easy to say, and it's very altruistic. We all have to work together. We all have to collaborate with one another. We have to ensure that we support one another. But the fact of the matter is that in reality, that is a very, very difficult task. So what I would like today, in the very short period of time that I have with you, is to, first of all, congratulate everyone at this institution. I think that we have achieved a point at our college where there is stability, where there is the ability to be creative, and I think we have transcended that. I think that today what we're seeing is that that ability to work together has gone to the next level, and that is the ability for us to engage in self-examination, in understanding how we assess ourselves and how we assess student learning at this institution. So I believe, to my core, that what we are doing here is extremely important. I think that we can demonstrate to many other institutions how it can be done, how we can break those barriers that have existed for so many years between departments, academic departments, and between academic departments, academic administration, and the rest of the administration of the college. So I don't want to appear as if we're being self-serving in my remarks, but I do want to congratulate all of us, because I think that without the goodwill of the faculty, without your understanding of the importance of the projects that you have engaged in, nothing could have been done. But I also believe that without a stable environment, nothing could have been done. So what is really, really important here is what is happening in this room at this time. We have goodwill, we have a clear understanding of where we're going, and once you do that, the brilliance of all of the individuals of this college is multiplied by the synergy of everyone working together. This is a very, very special institution. And as I said at the very beginning of my remarks, we are at a crossroads. We are at the point that we need to just simply take off. So, congratulations.
And now, Dr. Diane Call, Provost and Senior Vice President.
I would say welcome back, but for many of us, it's welcome to the new semester. And I want to thank all of you who've really contributed to making this launch of Spring 2010 as successful as it appears to be at this point. I guess we'll all know by Thursday, but I do thank you. Recently, I was at a conference, a Middle States conference, and a college president called for higher education institutions to educate students for ambiguity and uncertainty. There is general agreement among us that education must provide students the skills to cope with both. And we developed our general education objectives to define the competencies students must demonstrate to meet them. So today's conversation centers on how do we know if we're succeeding? To that end, a growing number of faculty and instructional and student support staff are engaged in ongoing interdisciplinary discussions to develop rubrics. By the way, I have a definition of rubric, which makes sense to me. It's called Statements of Expected Learning. It's much easier when you define it that way, I think. And we're going to try to incorporate them in individual courses and in high-impact activities. And most of all, we're going to evaluate specific learning objectives as well as the effectiveness of the structures we've developed for student learning outcomes inside and outside the classroom. The freshman academies offer a framework for student development. Our curricula and the courses within them focus on theory and application, represented through learning objectives, and often enriched through co-curricular activities. The assessment process at the course level, the program level, the institutional level will inform change to increase student retention, performance, and graduation. So today we examine what we've learned so far about student learning. The faculty and staff on the panels will share their experiences with the general education objectives, with the freshman academy structure, high-impact activities, and the assessment process. Learning about what's been less than successful is also extremely important, as it will lead to the refinement or even redirection of our resources and our interventions. Over the last 6 months, faculty from every academic department have participated in these activities and processes, along with representatives from student and instructional support service offices. Their continuing discussion and collaborative work advance a continuous improvement effort. Your program lists the participants in the projects discussed this morning, and I really have to thank all of you because it's been so incredibly energizing. Our engagement and collaboration across divisions and crosses divisions and departments. Student Affairs, led by Vice President Ellen Hardigan with Susan Curtis, joined with Academic Affairs, led by Michelle Cuomo and Susan Madeira, to implement the freshman academies. And with over 140 faculty and HEOs, high-impact activities and rubrics for learning outcomes were developed. Our faculty facilitators and liaisons have supported scores of faculty engaged in exploration of pedagogy, instructional technology, and assessment. And Vice President Rosemary Zins with Chris Johnson have identified funding sources for many of the ideas and discoveries derived from this work. Dr. Victor Fiquera has begun his analysis of data from the Academy's assessment protocol. And although the results are preliminary, what we do know is that our conversations have been interesting and productive, if only to debate the issues and strategies and tools to address them. Our initiatives in the context of national trends will be discussed by Dr. Derek Price and Dr. Michelle Kalina. Beyond today, we will continue these discussions in many venues, among them a series of informal campus conversations, an exchange of ideas about teaching and learning and professional advancement hosted by Office of Academic Affairs this coming spring term. To all of you on the panels, in the program, and in the audience, your willingness to invest in our students and in your own professional development and that of your colleagues is valued and an important service to Queensborough and the Academy. As Provost, I encourage your curiosity and participation. I will ensure you have access to opportunities and the support to engage in them, and I will also hope to support the acknowledgement of your work as you go forward in your careers here. Before we begin the panel presentations, we have an announcement. Queensborough also celebrates scholarship of our faculty through Faculty Excellence Awards. This is not a yearly occurrence. We, in fact, only do this every other year. However, we have this year, through a panel of chairpeople nominated by their own chairpeople meetings, they have considered a variety of nominees, if you will, and forwarded them to the president, who has named the following faculty as Faculty Excellence Award recipients: Dr. Tak Chung from physics, Dr. Kafdalo from social sciences, specifically economics, and Dr. James Valentino from mechanical engineering, technology, and design drafting. And these distinguished colleagues will be honored at a reception in April of this year. Panelists, from their presentations and discussions, we're going to learn more about student learning and ourselves. As a community, we own this process, and all of you will help to lead it. So I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the morning. I'm interested to hear more about the outcomes and your comments and insights into your experiences as faculty and staff at Queensborough. Thank you.
Today's program includes 3 panels. The first section has to do with Gen Ed rubrics and student learning outcomes. Just this past fall 2009, 75 faculty members participated in 9 faculty cohort groups that implemented 3 cross-cutting rubrics for student learning outcomes based on the Gen Ed objectives 1 through 3, developed by the faculty under the facilitation of DVP Praxis. And so the first panel today is basic skills across the academies. And I'd like to ask the faculty to come forward, Professor David Rothman and Doctors Arancha Borrachero, Julia Carroll, Beth Cunahan, Jelani Warsi, and Lana Zinger.
Well, there's quite a few of us, so I think we're going to skip the mic to speak loudly. We are the, what are we? The basic skills kind of high impact across the academies cohort.
Yeah, another day, another meeting. And I don't even know why I'm on this committee because David doesn't even like people in this department.
Yeah, and you know, I'm really skeptical. I've heard Lana, moan and complain, and she's so skeptical about rubrics
Well, it may not seem so, but our cohort did actually get off to a good start.
Okay, first meeting. So what kind of experience do we all have working with high impact strategy?
Well, I've done some learning communities. I've done sociology. I've done biology. A whole host of learning communities.
I have done service learning in one of my classes. Service learning communities, e-portfolio. I did learning communities with basic skills, service learning with College Now students, and service learning with our students.
Recently did a service learning with an organization on campus, Project Prize, working with high school students. And I've also worked with learning communities in the history department. It's great. Now let's talk about how central of a component were the high impact strategies in your course description. What would you say?
I would say probably in a general way I included them. They did reading, they did writing, but it wasn't a central main focus. Very more in an informal way.
Mine were actually very formal. I included them in the syllabus, and from day one, we started to review them. So by the time the assignment rolled around, they weren't so confused. That's my syllabus, and it's right in there, so they know what to expect from day one.
Okay, so what we did in our first meeting was we talked about how we could, we focused on particular high-impact course assignments and considered where the goals of these assignments intersected with the Gen Ed objectives.
Okay, so David put us together in little groups. Arancha and I were together, and we took, he made this little grid, and so my students are doing an oral history project with the CLIP students, and so then we matched it up, okay, the skill with the Gen Ed objective, and then an extension that, okay, we'll use the CP rubric to assess that skill from those oral histories.
Okay, esteemed comrades, let's talk about the rubrics. How much experience do we have using rubrics in our courses?
I've had some experience using rubrics with writing portfolios and more of a holistic type of style to judge a portfolio over a midterm and a final and so forth.
I've used them with written assignments and with oral presentations and in Spanish because I work with native speakers.
Mm.
and I use the rubrics. I take my gen ed objectives and then I make rubrics out of them. And again, I put them in the syllabus right behind the assignment. So also from day one, we go through the assignment and we go through the rubrics. And so they kind of don't have that anxiety in the middle of the semester. What am I supposed to do? What's the assignment? How do I get graded? Well, you know, it's in there. We talk about it.
Can I say something about that? Actually, one thing that I find that works is if you train the students with the rubrics before you actually grade their assignments with the rubrics.
What about outside rubrics we're fond of? I know Jelani Worsey, who couldn't be here today. He worked with Massachusetts State rubric at Harvard, and you know, he swears by it. It's something he's been working with for a long time.
Well, I think I got mine from different sites of the internet, and I've come up with my own.
I think we have one coming up. Yeah. A little bit further since then.
Those are mine.
Where did you take it from?
From different sites that I found in English, and then I translated them classically. And I keep changing them actually, because when the students use them, they tell me what they don't understand and what doesn't work. So.
I know there are some concerns about conforming to approved set rubrics.
Yeah, I mean, and anyway, didn't the students get rubrics in high school? Don't they know from rubrics anyway? Why do we have to recreate these rubrics? And then plus, you know, we're worried about the, you know, the assessment being like that, so then they're writing to the rubric. Does that really show they're learning? What about authentic learning? How can you really know over time what's really been retained and what they've really learned and understood and gotten out of it?
That is a concern that we hear from a lot of faculty.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That is a concern. I have another concern. I've talked with numerous faculty, and they're very anxious. They're nervous. They want to know, do they have to use the entire rubric? Can they use a part of it? It seems so overwhelming. You know, is it possible to use, you know, just a portion of the rubric, or do you have to use the whole rubric?
Well, let's talk about that, because it's getting late in the term already. It's almost midterm time. And we have the goal of doing dual assessments of a particular gen ed objective. We're testing the objectives 1 to 3. But we can work with a subset of one objective as it fits the particular assignment. If we scroll down, we can see, here's an example. I actually scrolled, yeah, that's okay. I had students, they were asked to find an editorial, scroll back up, just, yeah, right there, on one of our class debate topics using LexisNexis. And the assignment was to analyze, in writing, an editorial on the issue of gay marriage. We're having a debate project there. And we just looked at a subset of Task 1B from the CPE rubric, and you can see that at the bottom, that Task B of the CPE rubric demonstrates understanding of the reading through summary and explanation of relevant material. So we just looked at a subset of the first gen ed objective. And so that sort of answers your question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I have to play rubric police now. Have we all done our first assessments? How's it going?
Yeah, I did mine. It went well. Yeah, I haven't done the second one, but I've done the first one. It went well.
Any concerns or?
Well, I have one concern. Not all the students in my class are doing the high impact activity, but I'm assessing everyone in the
Because you have a
class.
service learning.
A service learning. So, do I have to make subgroups or same assessment, or what do I do with this?
That's a real concern. Think about that.
You don't know?
I don't know.
That's something for any other concerns?
Yeah, I have another concern. Do we have to use the general education rubrics, or can we use our own, or what are you doing in this rubric?
You know, I've thought a lot about that, and I think we don't have to be that formal. I think you can adapt, you know, your rubric to the gen ed rubric. I think that's pretty feasible. What do you guys think?
I agree.
As long as it parallels the objective.
Yeah, the same
terms.
objectives, the same goals that you're trying to achieve with your students.
Okay. You know, one thing is interesting. I mean, I did my first assessment. It's the assignment that I just showed, and I have to say this working with LexisNexis and having students analyze an editorial or summarize an editorial. I've done this for a number of semesters, and I have to say that after giving out the rubric, going through the rubric, having them understand that I'm going to be using the rubric to assess the activity, they took it very seriously. They took the assignment more seriously, and I have to be honest, I saw much better summaries than I've seen. So that was something positive
That's great.
that came out of that. Okay, so we're almost done. We have to get our second assessments in. We have to have another meeting. I promised to bring some delicious Jamaican roti.
We'll definitely be there then. Food, we're there.
Well, then I guess we'll trudge forward as a cohort, crossing new interdisciplinary frontiers, testing the waters of other freshly written gen ed rubrics, right? But I think we should maybe finish with some recommendations, reflect on the semester meetings.
Okay, my reflection about our meetings is that the good outcome is how we've been able to talk about our classes from different disciplines, what assignments we use, whether our expectations are similar or not, and basically comparing notes. We don't find that we have many chances to do this among programs.
Yeah, we're in basic skills. We're downstairs from the English department, and often we sort of have no idea what happens to our students. They go from our classes right to English 101 when they pass the test. And I found out that Beth had her students analyzing or reviewing New Yorker reviews. That kind of scares me, actually. But it was good to know.
But overall, I'm just questioning the value of spending so much energy on rubric assignment as opposed to working to build a collaborative culture so that all of our students, the study skills, everyone's on the same page. And what about eliminating texting from the college classroom and in all meetings? That's an important issue. So negative. You're always complaining and negative. Come on, this has been such a positive experience.
I agree. I really have learned, and I think we've all learned that we think about our assignments differently, we plan differently. Wow, next semester is just going to be so wonderful. I can't wait for next semester.
So another reflection that we had is that all of our students are familiar with rubrics. They have them in high school. Now they're starting rubrics in elementary school. The problem is they don't understand the language written in the rubric. So you give them this rubric, okay, fine. But what we've learned is we have to devote a lot of time to actually going through the language. What does this mean? So we found that to be really helpful.
That's it. Any questions? Thanks.
Thank you for a very lively presentation, certainly. We now move on to panel 2, which is a report from additional cohorts. And I'd like to invite to the front Doctors Megan Elias, Margot Edlin, Sylvia Svitak, and Professor Cooper, Robert Cooper. Please come to the front.
Of course, they have to follow the chronic overachievers. They were an overachieving cohort when I worked with them. And I have been elected just now to introduce our group. I've been working with the cohorts. I didn't get to work with all of them. I worked with some of them, and it's been a good experience for me. Working with faculty that, I see on campus, hi, how you doing? See them get coffee outside, and that's about it. So this semester I got to work more. Much of what they said, I found in a lot of cohorts. They had, well, why do we need to use rubrics? Is this taking time away from things? What is this about? I don't understand rubrics. Aren't rubrics for high school? And there's been a lot of struggle with that. If it makes you feel any better, when I was working still in the public school system and they went over to a Regents exam system that required all students to take Regents and be evaluated using rubrics instead of the old multiple choice English language arts rubric with an essay, it was the same conversation. And I think that those growing pains happen whenever you're trying to do something new or different. And it's not anything that I haven't experienced before working with people. I've said it myself, working with it. But I've been impressed with the dedication that people have shown in working towards it and trying something different and putting themselves out there. Because I think sometimes people think that rubrics are an evaluation of you and what you do in the classroom rather than sort of a measure of where students are across the spectrum of their learning and where they are when they come in. So, and that's not what it's supposed to be about. So I hope that I get to work with more of you, some new people that I haven't seen before. And don't worry, David, I'll keep reading all your stuff before you get into your group. But it's been a very good experience. And Lana, you've inspired me to add some things to my. She's like, why me? Why me go first? So, that's the one. I've been inspired to put some things on my syllabus that I might not have thought to do before. So. That's it. I cannot. Yeah, I can't help it anymore. Yeah, fight it out.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Professor Robert Cooper. I'm with the STEM Academy. Dr. Chalkin, Scott Belcher, and myself have implemented the STEM Academy this semester. What we did in the STEM Academy is the first thing that we wanted to do was to see in the STEM Academy, it's a math-intensive environment. So when students were coming to us with a Math 5 environment, we wanted to make sure that these students knew that they had a very long road ahead of them. And we wanted them to make sure that they needed to put emphasis on their math background. Otherwise, they would not make it in the STEM Academy. And I think that was very good because it gave the students an eye-opening understanding that they need to step it up and they need to get their math skills up to speed in order for them to graduate with an associate degree within the STEM Academy. And if they did not, we then, Mr. Belzer, he handled the problem and helped the student declare another major, or that student was referred to myself or Dr. Chalkin. And if we couldn't do it, we would then refer that student to the chair of the department. Our main goal was to get a student into the program that they were going to succeed in. Also, we implemented our cohorts. We had 5 cohorts that we had. We had 3 from technology. We had 1 from chemistry. We had 1 from the English department. We had them implement their rubrics, which they started to implement this semester. We also came out with Dr. Cordetti's matrix that we're implementing as we speak. And again, anybody who asks me anything about the STEM Academy, it is a work in progress. We are starting to feel what we need to do to nurture these students within the first 30 credits. Early warning, which is the 5-week early warning, is too late. We're trying to reach out by week 2, getting all the freshman entry-level instructors to give myself or Mr. Belzer feedback from the students to try to correct these students as early as in the 2nd week. We're also just basically reaching out. This, we didn't have a budget last semester because it was the first semester. We now have a budget. We have 3 activities planned for this semester. We plan on having a social meet and greet. We also have the Clubs Day, which is sponsored by the overall college. And at the end of the semester, we want to have a barbecue to where we're not saying goodbye to these students at the end of the spring semester, but we're trying to say, hey, you had a great time today, we'll see you in the fall. So what we're trying to do is to nurture these students in a positive environment where our main goal right now is retention. If we retain them and we keep them within the program here at the school, then naturally the graduation rates will increase. So again, it's a work in progress. We are implementing and adding things each day, each semester, but our end goal is to increase retention, have a more of a positive aspect of the students, telling them what they're doing wrong, kind of tough love type of thing, and what they need to do to get them back on track. Okay? That is what we are doing at the STEM Academy.
So I just wanted to talk at the very micro level. What happened when I gave rubrics to my students? I used the CPE rubric because I had used it before. I was part of the auditing process for the CPE, so I was very comfortable with it, and I believe in it. And I had an assignment that I'd done in years before that had a compare and contrast. I love compare and contrast. So the CPE rubric works well for that. And in the past, I had told students how I was going to evaluate their essays on their midterm. This was used on the midterm. And I told them it, and I got over it on the board, and I talked, and I thought I made it really clear. But when I gave them this rubric, this piece of paper, that came from the City University of New York, and was part of a larger experience, their experience as students within this big system, not just my classroom in Queensborough, they sat up, and they became very serious and very, very concerned. So we talked about it, and it really made me have to have a conversation that I hadn't prepared for, I will be honest. And I didn't have perfect answers ready for it. We had to talk about what was the likelihood of them getting a 6 on every category. Could they do that? And I said, of course you could do that, but this is a test, this is a rubric that's designed for use later in your career. So in fact, what we're going to see is where are you now? And for some people, I was able to say afterwards, hey, look, if you took the CPE tomorrow, you would do wonderfully. For other people, I had to say, getting ready, moving forward in your career at CUNY, you're going to have to work on this, work on this, work on this. And I gave them an opportunity to do it again. And that was open. So you could repeat the essay in exactly the same circumstances with the same rubric, or if you were happy with your original grade, you could just stay home. Only one person stayed home. So everybody wanted to try to improve. Well, not everybody, okay, almost everybody did improve. And they really, the fear, I don't love to inspire fear, but the fear that I saw in their eyes, I thought was actually pretty constructive, right? The tough love, right, exactly. That this class is not an isolated incident. This is part of your bigger career as a student in the world. So that's what I learned last semester, was that giving out a rubric creates a different environment for the student, and one that I like. I think it would be different if it was a rubric I had invented myself. I think the fact that it came from CUNY gave it a lot more, it was more fearful, right? Frightful, yeah. So, that's just what happened to me, and I would encourage other people to try it. But as Robert says, this is, all of it is a work in progress. Hopefully forever, right?
I guess it's my turn now. I don't know where to begin, because other than to maybe start with the fact that this fall I got involved with the Freshman Academy, and it fits in with a lot of the work that we're doing in the math department. Two new things happened in the math department. One was part of the work we're doing in the Freshman Academy was to form a cohort. And our responsibility was to look at the general ed objective, and in ours in particular was Gen Ed Objective 3. And that's where students will be able to reason quantitatively and mathematically in everyday life. So I was really delighted that 8 members of our department showed up for this committee, and we're part of a larger group in our department in doing assessment, which I'll mention in a few minutes. But with respect to the cohort, we got together, and it's an opportunity for us to get to talk about the issues we face in our classrooms with our students. I'd love to borrow your disclaimer card because our discussions bring up issues like students' learning habits, study habits, their dedication to coming to class. And I found that when you do think in terms of assessment and rubrics, that you can use assessment and rubrics as a learning strategy. I have been working myself personally, and a few faculty members have also tried out an approach to teaching math that I developed in a writing consortium. And when I first started to use this approach, I found that the students weren't really sure of what they were doing and what it was all about, other than that we gave them the mathematics and context, so I stopped getting the questions about what this is good for. So I said, okay, then maybe this is a good approach. Then I learned over the beginning semesters that I had to help the students learn. It wasn't just about the content, and that we would go over it, and that they've seen a lot of it before, but if there was a new approach to learning the content because they didn't pass the placement test, they're not ready for the STEM Academy or any other discipline here, then I had to do something about it in the classroom. So I spend a lot of time in the beginning of a Math 10 or Math 5 class helping them to learn and what they needed to do. So the ones who, as I say, buy into it, they can succeed. The ones who don't, because they don't come to class or they don't study when they're supposed to or do their homework, that's where this approach brings up these issues. And so we do have to address those too with everything else. But I think that sharing rubrics with students can be a very good learning strategy for them. So what we did is we looked at the rubric for that was developed this past semester for Gen Ed 3. And what we decided to do was to focus on the outcome of how they can reason, how students can reason quantitatively and mathematically in their field of interest. And so each one of us chose a topic in our course, because everybody in the cohort is teaching either a Math 10 or 5 or both. And they designed, what we did is we did an added value project. So each person developed their own project within their own classroom, where they provided a diagnostic of a particular concept or skill in math that they would need to apply in the field of study. One simple example would be where students would have to translate verbal descriptions of a relationship between two variables into a algebraic statement, equation, and then solve the equation for an unknown. So that some of us did. And others chose different topics that would relate to this particular rubric. And so after the first assessment of where the students stood, then each one of us did an intervention strategies. And they could be more practice, maybe using computer algebra programs that would help them to practice their skills and to understand the concepts. And some writing can be involved, group learning, different kinds of strategies. And then they were assessed the second time on the same topic. And most of that work the second time around was in December, so we're now at the process of putting our results together. At our first meeting, we will discuss the results and see what it means to us in our classroom And then, of course, the big theme here that I'm hearing and that we saw was the collaboration theme. And so that we can then, reach out to the other cohorts and the other, the various academies and see how we can coordinate that. So that's where we stand right now. One other thing, I just want to mention that in our department this year, under the chairmanship of Dr. Fabricant, we have a new assessment committee that is one of like 4 groups that we have. We have a group that's working on Math 5. It's a project, and you'll hear more about it as it develops. Then there is a group that we have departmental exams for math. In Math 5, Math 10, 13, and Math 120, and actually, and 120, which is a credit course, but it's still a basic skills course. And we have a department committee that prepares the departmental final exams. And now the assessment committee will be in charge of doing the assessment, analyzing the assessment, and getting the statistics, which we're doing after the final. So there's some of the results have been tabulated already. And that would be the 4 groups that I was thinking of, trying to keep them straight in my head. And actually, there are about 25 members of the 25 people, 25 in total over these 4 committees. However, there's about 14 in common, where people are on two or more of the committees. And what it led to in the term was a collaborative meeting where we all got together, so that we're now branching out in our own department in discussing all of these assessment issues. And that's a pretty exciting kind of thing. And I'd like to thank Nam Jong Mo, who set up the collaboration, and a wonderful setting at a Korean restaurant up on.
I think so. Food has to be involved in all of it. David set the bar. We have to have food and everything.
Oh, that's right. So it's cake that comes up every time, right? Okay. So and he was responsible for setting up this collaboration. So I think that's the big thing here, and I'm really excited about that part. So I guess
Does anybody have questions?
Our next topic is student experiences. This year, faculty and freshman coordinators partnered in creating student experiences that supported academy student identity and inquiry into students' fields of major interest. I'd like to invite, for the session called Faculty and Freshman Coordinators, Professors Shelley Bannon, Kelly Ford, Alexander Tarasco, and also the freshman coordinators, Ms. Kim Brooks, Mr. Andre Lee, and Ms. Gail Patterson.
Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to introduce our panel a little bit more in depth. Okay. So I'm just going to introduce our panel a little bit more in depth. So what we hope to discuss today, student experiences aligned with general education and disciplinary objectives, is an awareness in ways in which student experience objectives can be met. So in particular, we will discuss how we can utilize our pre-existing resources, look to our own students' needs and maximize our own commitment to student experiences, all in an effort to enhance levels of participation and engagement within student experiences. So I know that's a lot of the use of the word student experience, but our point is really, as has been mentioned before, collaboration to achieve
Take it out, put it closer.
Good morning. I'll just start off. Most of the events for the Education Academy start with Miss Rod, who's the academic advisor for education students. She's been here for years before I have, so she's the main person that's been organizing events for the Education Academy, and I've been lucky to just come in and just help her out with recruiting students by word of mouth and by email. I'll try to. Okay. I'm holding it pretty close. All right. We've had a few events over the course of the semester. We're a pretty small academy, so I think that's helped to foster a sense of community and a sense of solidarity amongst education students. One of the events that we've done is the Education Academy Luncheon, which we do twice a semester. It's a good event for building community because students just get to mingle and talk amongst each other. This past December, we actually brought in two alumni of the Education Academy, Maha Hussein and Alethea Hampel, who are both at NYU on full scholarships right now after graduating from the education program here. And they just talked about their experiences and fielded questions from students on that day. Also, the Future Teacher Society, which is a club for people who want to be teachers in the future, that was also an important day for them to recruit members and just to talk about their activities as well. Another event that we did was a scholarship workshop, and students always have concerns about funding their education right now and also in the future. So with the help of some others, Ms. Rod published a scholarship booklet, and we just discussed different scholarships and the application process and the materials that they needed to do that. I think this is a type of event that could be opened up, in the future to other academies and to continuing students as well. Another event that we did was a New York Times readership workshop, and we were lucky to have Professor Bateman come in and administer it. She put an emphasis on close reading skills and critical thinking skills, which are important for people who want to be educators in the future. Another aspect that we want to encourage with the activities is to get students to get real-world experience. They're already getting some sort of experience in their ED 110 classes, where they're required to do a classroom internship with 20 observation hours. So this gives them a good idea of whether or not they want to pursue it in the future. Also, for the spring, we're trying to set up a job fair specific to education students. So we just sent out invitations to organizations like YMCAs and summer camps and after-school programs. Lastly, we've had great faculty support for these programs. Professor Ferdenzi, Spradley, and Daly have been great in showing up to our events and supporting them and getting the word out to the students.
I'm honored to talk to you today about student activities, specifically to the Business Academy. The goal of the Freshman Academies is to assist students during their first year of college, all of the many new challenges that they'll face that come along with being a student in a new environment. So basically, the Academy acts as a bridge between high school and the college experience. And the goal is to make sure that the students are fully aware of all of the opportunities and services available to them and to make that transition as smooth and seamless as possible. So the business department has various student activities that allow students it provides them a way to connect to the college. We have Professor Vicky Kasimanakis has the Business Society that meets on a monthly basis during club hours, and there are speakers who attend. Various topics have included tips on resume writing and interviewing, advice on creating stock portfolios, investment portfolios, identity theft. At the same time, there's also a social aspect. So there are refreshments served and lunch, and the students are able to build relationships while at the same time receive valuable information in different business areas. Then Professor Angela Polakidis started the International Business Club, which provides all of those same opportunities as the Business Society, right, and has speakers there on international business. We also have Ted Rosen, Professor Ted Rosen, who started the mock trial team. This is a regional competition, and there each college conducts a trial. The students are able to participate as witnesses, attorneys for both sides as well as witnesses, and they present opening and closing statements as well as cross-examinations. Queensborough has been for the past 2 years the only community college at these competitions. The business department is very proud. In 2008, they won the Spirit Award. In 2009, a Queensborough student won the Regional Witness Award. On a personal note, last year, one of the students in one of my classes was also a member of the mock trial team. And I went to see him present. He did an excellent job and enjoyed it very much. In fact, he went on to Queens College and came back the following semester to help out and finish up with the mock trial team in the following semester. So you can see there really is a connection there. The students enjoy it, and they do come back to the college. Then we have the Fed Challenge, and this is a national competition. The objective of this competition is for the students to have an understanding of our Federal Reserve System. But again, at the same time, the students work together as a team. They support each other. Right? They enjoy it, and they find that connection as well. Very proud of them also. The past years, they've won various awards. In 2009, they came in first place in the New York tournament, third place in the national tournament. But so we have all of these activities that really students do find a connection to the college, and the hope is that that does build a foundation that leads to success, right, and ultimately a greater retention as well. And I would be remiss not to note that a major contribution to the success of all of these activities is from the support and leadership provided by the college's administration, and particularly to Dr. Jonas Fallick, who's the chair of the business department.
Good morning again. As a representative from one of the pilot academies, along with Andre's Education Academy, the Visual and Performing Arts Academy, I'm the freshman coordinator, or VAPA, as we kind of call it. I have been very fortunate to see the positive impact of student experiences for the past 3 semesters. In addition, I've had the privilege of working with a group of self-motivated students and highly supportive faculty. I know that that's been kind of the sentiment around here, that we really have had some supportive faculty. Our academy has had a powerful beginning. Inherent within the VAPA student identity is the desire to create, to perform, to display, and to appreciate. Our students' experiences have reflected this particular need. So, for example, our events have included attending art exhibits at the Oakland Gallery, holding receptions after student productions, and taking part in the college's 50th anniversary celebration by showcasing the talents of our music, theater, art, and dance students. So that's just a general overview of some of the events that we've taken part in. But what I'd like to note more importantly is that while the Freshman Academy has been a wonderful vehicle to promote student engagement, these events have only been possible because of a pre-existing sense of camaraderie within the QCC arts community. So more significantly, it has been that culture of faculty commitment to student experiences that we've really been able to succeed and really exceed all of our expectations for the academy. So the faculty members have done a wonderful job of delivering students the opportunity to take part, to participate in events and produce their own works and really engage their peers and engage members of the college community at large. That being said, the Visual and Performing Arts Academy has many plans for the future. Moving forward, we hope to also incorporate a workshop model where visual and performing arts students take part in events geared towards their artistic development and field of major interest. So, for example, we hope to deliver workshops on topics such as building a portfolio or curriculum vitae, career exploration within the arts, and the importance of networking as a tool for the artist or performer. So, just to end that, I would like to again stress how important it's been to have such a great collaborative effort amongst the faculty, the student support staff, like myself and my colleagues, and most importantly, the students, because obviously without them, this would all be moot. So, moving on, I think Professor Bannon, she's another business faculty.
As a Business Academy faculty coordinator, it has been our pleasure to work with Student Affairs, Susan Curtis, and our freshman coordinators in planning Business Academy activities that integrate with the general curriculum in business. After holding several of these different activities, I'm going to present to you, hopefully I've learned a lot, and so I'm going to present to you my top 10 things to remember when planning freshman activities. The first is, number 10, appreciate the drive and enthusiasm of your freshman coordinators. Our first activity was the last fall when we did the freshman first orientation. We had several faculty from the business department present information on the many possibilities that the freshmen can get involved in the Business Academy and how to explore potential careers. The highlight was that the freshmen were able to have a question and answer session with a recent QCC graduate who went on to, is now transferred to Baruch College. It was so encouraging to see over 350 freshmen engaged and actively participating, wanting this information. Students were also given information about QCC support from the Learning Center, about tutoring, the Writing Center, the Math Center. Our freshman coordinators, which is Anna and Natalie, drove home the point that students need to work hard, be proud of their achievements, and that faculty are here to support them. Number 9, you cannot do it without the help of your academy, okay? We have been very fortunate to have outstanding support from our department chair, Dr. Fallick, as well as several business faculty who have enthusiastically participated in most all of these events. A special thank you to Glenn Birdie, Ted Rosen, Linda Meltzer, Vicky Kasamanakis, Angela Poulikitis, Ed Hansen, Paul Nagel, and Steve Hamill. Number 8, it is really important to connect with your students. That's why we're having these activities. The faculty plays, and this is sort of a recurring theme, the faculty plays a vital role in working with students, not only as educators, but as mentors and advisors, and this is a great opportunity to do that. Number 7, support from your college is crucial. Basically, our last event was where we had the week before finals, we did a tutoring workshops from 1 in the afternoon to 8 at night to accommodate both our day and evening students in the Business Academy. We added an afternoon social hour and an evening social hour where pizza was served. Again, food is becoming one of the main themes. Many of our faculty volunteered their time to provide working sessions with students. Tutors were available in all of the business subjects thanks to the extraordinary support of Bonnie Cook. We couldn't have done it without her. 6, you need faculty to require/encourage student participation attendance. I think that's one of the main things that we've learned is we really need the help of our faculty. For our Business Academy's 50th anniversary event, we enlisted the help of Vice President Zins, and students were asked to participate in our business ethics essay contest. We provided students with business ethical dilemmas, required them to research and develop options that would best resolve each situation. Once again, our faculty supported and encouraged participation from our students. As an added incentive, we offered financial prizes that will be awarded at our event on March 18th. We hope all of you will come. We have invited New York State Comptroller Thomas DiNapoli, thanks to Ted Rosen, to be our keynote speaker. We have planned an interactive session with students to encourage their participation through the direction of, yes, our faculty. Number 5, you need inspiration and a little perspiration. Our freshman coordinators, with the help of faculty, formed a group of freshman students to participate in the Walk to Aspire. This helped to instill a sense of community with other business students as well as QCC. Number 4, you need to encourage student success. We are currently planning the spring orientation for this semester's business freshmen. Our goal is basically to ensure that our activities are effective in increasing the success rate of our students. Number 3, have fun. I think one of the things that we need to remember as faculty and for the students is that everybody needs to have a little fun. And 2, stay enthusiastic and determined. Well, admittedly, there is some trial and error in planning these activities, and sometimes we need to go back to the drawing board. We remain enthusiastic and determined, and we'll keep going. And number 1, faculty in the classroom are the front line. We need and thank you for your help. So thank you very much.
So I actually represent one of the newer academies, the new Beyond the Block, as I like to call it. Again, it's the Health Related Sciences Academy. We boast 600 plus students, and they're a very special bunch. And with that being said, I believe our objective, as both Alex and I discussed, was pretty much to be exposing the students. We wanted to introduce and explore possible options with... Okay. We wanted to explore possible options within the healthcare industry, as many students find themselves having to change or alter their career paths due to either uncertainty of their own skills, unfamiliarity with the health careers, or because of remedials or academic alerts. So far, what we've actually have accomplished in October, we co-sponsored with Mary Sliz, who's a part of the Medical Office Assistant Program, to present our guest speaker, Robert McMillan, Esquire, who serves as counsel and board of trustees of the American Medical Association. He actually spoke about the future of healthcare and all the happenings with the current health reform. The event was promoted by way of Tiger Mail and Epsilon and Academy pages, and was also promoted with various departments such as the bio department, business departments, and ST100 classrooms. In November, we started to conduct small outreach and small focus groups to discuss student interests. Students completed questionnaires that actually I designed and participated in an informal discussion about just areas of interest. Those were to include internships, possible activities that they were interested in, resumes, and actually certification within the industry. In December, we co-sponsored with C-STEP on Exploring Health Careers workshop, and it focused on an industry-specific website bearing the actual same name. The workshop was presented by the creator of the website, who hails from the American Dental Association, and the information that was discussed was actually free access that you can find on this website that has career profiles, labor market information, health-related education and training programs, financial aid resources, specialized learning opportunities, and it allows for the website users to actually get free e-newsletters. Weekly emails were sent to the Academy students, regularly highlighting events that are taking place off campus concerning the health industry. I wanted to actually publicly thank Dr. Soar from the College Discovery Program. Oftentimes we communicate via email. He sent me some information about a Mentoring in Medicine Incorporated event held off campus, and those emails were actually documented in our weekly report. So what's next for the Health-Related Sciences Academy? We actually want to make sure that we have Academy representation in the CUNY-wide diabetes campaign. We want to see if we can submit something as an Academy with the art contest. We also want to partner with the Career Services Office to promote Focus, an already existing resource. It's an online career program and self-assessment where students can actually identify transferable skills and be able to develop those, as well as employment opportunities that are within the industry. So what have we basically learned so far? With a large number of students within the academy, we feel that it's best to work with them by groups in majors so that we can cater the discussions to career-related items. Many of the students are not certain of their career choice or options, so some form of self-assessment and career exploration is greatly needed. I also echo the sentiment that working with various departments and academies with fostering more student activity and involvement. We've begun building relationships with various clubs and organizations, such as the Health Club and the Student Nurses Association. We will definitely continue working with C-STEP and STEM Academy to providing workshops geared towards this exploration and support throughout their studies. As you know, it's very difficult. And finally, continued faculty and staff promotion and reinforcement is key. I do agree with collaboration, but student buy-in is also key, and we need to make sure that not only it's industry current, but it's relevant to the student.
Well, I would like to just start off by saying something about Gail. I see us working as a team from the time that we met and we were planning the orientation. I think our relationship has evolved and grown, and so we do things together. We visit different departments. We look at focus groups together. We communicate about events and plan events together. I know what she's doing. She knows what I'm doing, and that will continue. And being that my office is on the same floor as Gail's, I often walk by and I see students and see how she's relating to the students, and it's really wonderful. And I think that is crucial, that face-to-face contact that she has, and the other freshman coordinators as well, is so important. And I think that will help in our retention rate. As faculty coordinator of the Health-Related Science Academy, we're really involved with 4 departments: nursing, health, phys ed and dance, biology, and business. Any careers that are health-related are under us. So we're working with a lot of different faculty and students, and collaboration is really important to us. I also work with 6 faculty cohorts, and we're working on those rubrics and assessments. And so we have Georgina Colaleo and Tina Iacova from nursing, and Sharon Ellerton from bio, and Lisa Mertz from the massage program, and Judy Barbanel from basic skills, and Sherry Rada from speech. So we're really reaching out to liberal arts and sciences faculty. So I can just give you one example of what one of the faculty did in terms of assessment, and that was to look at one of the gen ed objectives, which is listening and speaking. And Georgina Colaleo had a group of students that had a teaching project to present nutrition to the elderly, healthy nutrition, looking at labels on food. And what she did was she had the students practice their their teaching assignment in front of the other students and herself. And then she gave that student feedback as to how they did based on the competencies that were on the rubric. One of the students was an ESL student and had a little difficulty with language. And what happened was when they actually did the presentation and she did look at them based on the rubric, that student decided to use more visual aids to help get the message across about nutrition. So their numbers basically either remained the same or went up. And both the faculty and the students found that it was helpful. It was helpful to know what are they being assessed for, how can they improve on their work, and seeing results that they have had improved in the time being, and also getting that informal feedback from other students as to how they were doing. But the topic of student activities, I think from a faculty perspective, I think the goals are really important. It's not just about getting people together and feeding them. I think that was alluded to before, and I think the word connection came up a couple of times, and I think that's one of the goals, is that student-to-college connection, the student-to-student connection, the student-to-faculty connection, the student-to-subject matter connection, and the student-to-career connection. So that's one goal. I think the other goal, when I look at activities and why are we doing these activities and getting outside speakers and having different assignments, I think that the deeper goal is really to help students gain a deeper understanding of the knowledge necessary for them to succeed in an ever-changing world that we live in, to see the larger picture, to gain new insight, to be exposed to outside views, to reflect on issues important in their career, to make their education as meaningful as possible. So faculty involvement is crucial. And we, in the spring semester, we are having designated courses specifically for our health science students. So English 101 is considered our cornerstone. We have special classes set aside. We have also Intro to Psychology and also Sociology, writing intensive courses set aside. And what we are planning on asking the faculty to do is to try to get an assignment or have students come to an event that is related to health. For example, using literature, articles, poetry that concerns health. I'm thinking of an example would be something like end-of-life issues, which is very important in dealing with health and health care, because it also, poetry can be used, there's psychological issues involved, there are systems such as hospital insurance systems that impact on end-of-life care. So we would like to make that kind of connection with the liberal arts and science faculty to make it meaningful to the students in terms of their career. There are also high-impact courses that Sharon Ellerton is doing in bio with service learning. There's writing intensive in the massage program in the introductory course. So we're working with faculty to really broaden student perspectives. I think to end, I think we are also this spring being involved in an interdisciplinary way in the 50th anniversary of our college, and Sharon Elton is chairing the event. And we're having a health fair and wellness day. And this will be open to not only the college community, but also the local community as well. It'll be open to outsiders. And we're all very excited about this. We're working with the bio, health, phys ed, and dance, nursing faculty. We're getting student nurses to volunteer to do health screening. We're having massage therapy students come and do chair massages. The faculty from this department, some of us will be on a panel to talk about wellness, how to increase our wellness. And I think this will be very successful. So I'm just encouraging all of you. I know that you've been hearing about the academies, and some of you don't know that much about them, but I'm just encouraging you to, if a faculty coordinator asks you to participate in being on a cohort or sponsoring an event, to really be open to that idea. I don't think that this is going to work unless we have a lot of faculty involved. The freshman coordinators are wonderful and they're working very hard, and we need to continue our relationships with them. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Okay. My goal is to keep this presentation down to 11 minutes plus or minus 14 seconds. Leaving 4 minutes for questions and answers plus or minus 14 seconds. As acting principal investigator of the Academy Assessment Protocol, I've been implementing the research plan affectionately known as the Protocol to assess the effectiveness of the freshman academies. Simply put, we're assessing the effectiveness of the high-impact strategies, the use of rubrics in the classroom to assess student learning outcomes, and the effects of freshman coordinators. With data collection methods and procedures specified by the protocol, the effects of these three aspects are being investigated. Although the protocol is somewhat abstract, I think many of us have experienced at a more concrete level. The counselors and guidance have been very gracious to allow us precious classroom time so that we can come in and give out the survey assessments in both the first and 10th week of class. I'd like to thank the counselors for that. Faculty have been involved with the faculty survey administered via SurveyMonkey, and they've been participating and involved with it at a concrete level there. IT has been heavily involved supplying data. They've created an academy assessment database, and that has been used with the administrative database to get an understanding of some of the hard data, the outcome data of how students have been performing. The protocol specifies general expectations of success. Students who experience high-impact strategies will be more successful in terms of, well, if they've seen a freshman coordinator, they should be more successful. If they've had high-impact strategies, they should be more successful. If rubrics were incorporated in the classroom, again, they should be more successful. These are some of our expectations based upon what the rubric, what the protocol has specified. We have various measures of success. You could think of these as our outcome variables. The engagement concept focuses on interactions between faculty, staff, students, and various offices, the quality of interaction and satisfaction. Theoretically, those who are engaged are motivated to persist and to perform well academically. You'll see here we have higher course success rates We defined 30 gateway courses. These are courses that are critical for success. Usually there's pretty much a high enrollment in those areas, a significant enrollment, and they're critical. They're the courses that students need to achieve well in order to move forward. For example, Math 5, Math 10, Anatomy and Physiology, BE 205, courses like that. Those are the courses that we are looking at. And we're looking at the course level, not the section level, except for a few exceptions where we have various faculty who are going to be working with academic affairs to look at the effects of rubrics at the section level. But for the most part, we're working at the course level. One of our main hypotheses is we want to see students who have high impact experiences or visit the freshman coordinators or have had their performance assessed via rubrics will succeed at these critical courses. For some, we'll look at pass rates. For others, we're looking at grade distributions. Data collection. We gave an initial freshman survey on the first week that pretty much characterizes what happened over the summer, how students felt about the enrollment process. We gave a 10th week survey to the freshmen that really captured how they felt after being at QCC for their first semester at a significant period of time. We were looking at things such as how engaged they are, how much they've interacted with various tutoring agencies, working with the freshman coordinators, how helpful they found these offices and departments to be. We're also collecting data via administrative databases and the Academy assessment database, and we'll be making preliminary reviews of the Fall 09 data from these sources. Some results of our surveys. Pretty pleased. We had really good response rates. By going to the classrooms, we were able to sample a good number of students. For the surveys, we had over 2,000 responses and 1,600 responses. We asked students when they first came to college, did they feel welcome? 91% agreed or strongly agreed. It shows that the enrollment process worked fairly well. For the first week of the survey, 248 actually gave comments. I mean, it was about 20%. They just wrote all over the place. It was amazing. And about 20% also expressed that they felt very welcome at QCC. They liked it. QCC is a great place. It feels like home. So those two things show that the enrollment process seemed to be pretty positive. For both the first and 10th week surveys, we had high responses, as I said before, and this was kind of strange. 76% of the respondents had met with a freshman coordinator at least once. This was true at the first week and at the 10th week. It came out that way, 76%, showing that the freshmen are meeting with the freshman coordinators. For freshman academies to be successful, we have to have successful implementation. This is showing we're having successful implementation. When asked if the freshman coordinators were helpful for the first and second survey, 90% and 89% respectively, found that, hey, I agree, I strongly agree that these freshman coordinators were very helpful. 10th week survey. Overall, just looking at all these surveys together, it seems like the students utilized services and visited offices, found them to be very helpful. Some utilization numbers seemed a bit lower than expected. I plan to make some follow-up investigations. That's a major theme today. There'll be lots and lots of follow-up investigations throughout the spring to really get a more fine-tuned understanding of how things happened in the first semester. I want to try to get an idea of which certain areas and why, or which certain type of students visited various tutoring offices. 54% indicated they were having at least one HI high-impact experience. We looked at the data from the administrative database and found actually the number was 72%. So this shows that the students didn't get an exact understanding of maybe what a high-impact strategy was in some cases. I suspect it may be the cornerstone courses. Maybe they didn't see a cornerstone course as being high impact. That's a possibility. There are various ways we can interpret this. Faculty survey. We gave out a faculty survey towards the very end of the semester. Excuse me. Getting very thirsty. High exposure to assessment like radiation has a deleterious effect upon one's health and one's soul also, I believe. So, please excuse me. We asked about 12 questions to the faculty, asking about the general concept of engagement. And we wanted to see, are they interacting with each other, interacting with the students, interacting with the freshman coordinators, using high-impact strategies, how they felt about high-impact strategies, things like that. Pretty solid response rate, we're happy to say, and 132, a little more than 10%. 70% of those surveyed used one or more high impacts in fall of 09. We're showing implementation here. For about 6 out of 12 questions, faculty used high impact strategies and indicated that they were more engaged with the college. The strongest one was that 86% of those who used at least one high-impact strategy strongly agreed that high-impact strategies are effective to improve teaching and learning. So to use high-impact strategies kind of led those people who were involved with them seemed to like them, seemed to find that they were efficacious. In terms of making referrals, I wasn't so sure. The data is a little bit unclear, I'm being honest here. It doesn't seem like high-impact strategies had an effect upon making referrals, except we had one that was very significant with referrals to the Writing Center. Again, more in-depth analyses will be happening in the future with this. I noticed about half of those surveyed said that they never spoke to a freshman coordinator, and that really got me thinking. So I formed subgroups, and I broke down the respondents into those who never spoke to a freshman coordinator, spoke once, twice, 3 times, 4 more times to see if there was something happening. I noticed a trend. The more often a faculty member spoke to a freshman coordinator, the more the freshman coordinator was perceived as efficacious. So this is almost analogous to if they're involved with high-impact strategies, they seem to find that they work. If you're involved with the freshman coordinator, you speak to them frequently, it seems like they found the freshman coordinators to have been helpful. So here's some of that, the tabular data on this. You can see they never spoke to a freshman coordinator. About only half would strongly agree that the freshman coordinators were efficacious. They provided important support and guidance. They spoke once, 83%. Twice, 73%. 3 times, all of them strongly agreed. 4 more times, pretty much strongly agree. So the moral of the story is don't speak to a freshman coordinator twice. No. Seriously. The point is we're seeing a trend here. So generally, the more you speak to a freshman coordinator, the more we find them to be efficacious. I'm sorry, I went the wrong way. Go previous. Okay. I considered there could be a sort of self-justification effect happening here. Maybe those who are involved with the freshman coordinators, involved with high impacts, they may be thinking, hey, look, I'm involved in this, so it must be good, and that's why I'm saying it's good. It's a possibility. The nice thing about self-justification is that sometimes over time, reality dispels that. That enchantment is lost with repeated exposures to reality. So usually that's one way to dispel the enchantment. And speaking about enchantments, everything looks really good so far. The surveys have painted a positive picture. Students are feeling welcome. They're visiting the freshman coordinators. We see perceptions of helpfulness, engagement, satisfaction. These good feelings should affect academic performance. What counts in the end is how they actually perform in class, if they decide to stay or give up, and if they graduate. This is what really matters. That's why we ultimately have to look at the hard data. So just last week, IT sent me the fresh data right there from fall of 09. I'd like to thank Emil and Mark Berman for putting those together very quickly for me. And as much information we could use to understand better how this cohort performed. Qualification, it's very raw, uncooked data. As some of you know, grades have to settle over time. People who get NC grades, well, they take the workshop and that wonderful Lexa test that I was glad to get for 8 years here. They take the test, and then the NC can transform into a P. So then that could change things over time. So things aren't absolutely settled yet. But taking a little look at the fall 09 data, because we researchers just can't wait to look at data. We have about 3,229, about 50-50 male-female, one or more high-impact experience, 72. Again, showing implementation. Our freshmen are getting their high-impact experiences. Credit completion ratio. This is really important. Students will attempt a certain number of credits, but then in reality they earn a certain number of credits. So this ratio is really critical as a measure of success. And we have pretty much a 66% rate. I feel this might be a little bit of an underestimation, again, because grades will transform. An NC can become a P, and then those equated credits I think should add up. I'm going to double check this. We'll see what happens. But I believe this ratio actually is sort of an underestimation. I'm hopeful it will increase. Credit progress. This is really important. We have students who are at high impact who have had one or more high impact. Those are the HIs. Over here. I can't move the mouse, but you can see the HI, the no HI. Those are the students who did not have any high-impact strategies. So we see that we have about 13.2, pretty much equal number of credits attempted, a little bit more for the high impacts. What's nice to see here is that those who had at least one high-impact strategy earned about 9.72 credits. 1.8 or so were credits, 57% versus 69%. Little indication here that there seems to be something going on positive with regard to high-impact status. Again, this is very preliminary. I have to look deeper into it, but this is definitely in a very good direction. We took a look at course success in a few areas, a sampling of different zones. Math 5, 10, to get an idea of math. The remedials, 111, 112, the remedial writing, the remedial reading, and some ESLs. Looking at no high impact versus those who've had one or more high impact. The ends of the total number of enrolls. I don't have it broken down for both. Unfortunately, I didn't see any difference with math. It's really like dead even. But what's promising is that for BE 111 and 121, we see those who had one or more high impact have significantly higher pass rates. And again, 111 and 121 are some of our gateway, some of our critical courses. So to see some differences here is very promising, and that's something we'll follow up upon. I have very mixed outcomes with the ESL ones, the 225, 226s. We have one operating somewhat in the opposite direction, the other one in the positive direction. I have to do a lot more digging in to understand what's happening over here. Again, we're looking at about 30 courses. Mauricio.
I see a trend there that as they become more proficient, the 25, the percentage go down when they're using the high impact. Yeah, it may mean, with many interpretations, maybe the most needy students are the ones who benefit most, maybe because there's a learning community effect going on. I'm going to break this down because I'm looking at no high impacts versus multiple high impacts. So I want to see, okay, what happened within learning communities? What happened with those who had writing intensives? Does that have a better impact upon the reading courses? So there's all these microscopic ways. But yeah, input like that is very helpful to me because it spurs creativity. And yeah, I had the same thought. Thank you. Future investigations in the coming months. We will look at the rubric summary reports from fall of 2009 to share the findings with the faculty cohorts. I know they're all dying to find out what happened, so am I. Just haven't had a chance yet. And we'll be comparing the academic outcomes of the cohort of first-time, full-time students from fall of 2006 to the cohort of 2009. So this is our baseline data. We want to see, okay, how does this cohort, how's the 2009 group who's had exposure to freshman academies, exposure to high impacts, exposure to freshman coordinators, how are they doing compared to the students who were in the 2006 cohort? 2006 cohort, all that data is nice and settled. 2009 data is not very settled yet. So in the coming time periods when that data is relatively settled, then I'll start making comparisons. Looking at remedials versus remedials independently of non-remedials and non-remedials, because we don't want to make inappropriate comparisons just if this new cohort is better prepared. So we have to be very careful about that. And that's why we'll be making segmented analyses. So I look forward to sharing more results with you in the future gatherings. And if you have any suggestions, please send them to me. And I'm open to questions right now.
My understanding is that the math department gives a uniform final exam, for instance, in like Math 5 and Math 10. And so the non-high impact students and the high impact students are compared, in effect, by the same tool. What happens in, for instance, BE 111? Do the students get graded all based upon the same measure, or is it individual instructors assigning grades? Because if it's individual instructors assigning grades, then you have to worry about the bias of the people teaching the high-impact classes may be biasing the results because they're teaching high-impact, they think more of their students than the others are.
Thinking about self-justification, those types of, that's very difficult for us to tease out. Yeah, it's definitely a tough one. And us looking at some way to make a statistically control for that. But otherwise, bring up a good point. It's very difficult to tease that factor out. Any other questions?
Victor, actually, just to hark back to what Maurizio said, I mean, you saw the BE 226, with those involved with high impact went up from 49%, 61%. And I think that's significant. I think we should think about that in terms of looking at the higher level basic skills classes, particularly ESL, DSL students, and giving more respect through connecting them to other high impacts, particularly learning communities, so that we're not isolated, so that we're integrated. And with the sort of the nature, the theme of these with these academies is to integrate, so that we can have more credit classes connected to our 226 and our 205, particularly those higher level. And I think this data gives justification to that process, so I'm happy to see that.
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
When you say that the students that you're measuring in DE 121 had one or more high impact, it was not necessarily in DE 121 that they had that class. They could have had that class in another instance. So therefore, that would not quite be so that the measurement is skewed because we're measuring what happened in DE 121, not what happened in the high impact class.
This is not
correct?
Right. This is just those who globally had that exposure. What we're hoping is that, say you had a portfolio in some other class, the beneficial effects of that, where learning communities draw students together, and then that would spill over in many ways, because there's a whole motivational aspect, and that's a key factor here with our students. So that's why it is somewhat legitimate, but yes, in addition, you want to do it more microscopic.
Our final presentation today is by EVP Praxis, and I'd like to ask Dr. Derek Price and Dr. Michelle Kalina to come forward. And they'd like to give us place Queensborough's activities in a more national perspective.
7 minutes till noon. You know, Michelle Cuomo said we'd have no more than 15 minutes, and so we prepared for less, which is even better. For any of you who may have been at the AAC&U meeting or followed any of the results through the Chronicle or Inside Higher Ed, or maybe if you're really good, you're tweeting and following that kind of information, you may have heard things like this said at that meeting. Quote, without an unrelenting focus on quality, on defining and measuring and ensuring the learning outcomes of students, any effort to increase college completion rates would be hollow effort indeed, end quote. You may have heard. You might also have heard, quote, effective assessment is critical to ensure that our colleges and universities are delivering the kinds of educational experiences that we, and this person is a president of a college, believe we actually provide for the students, end quote. What is incredibly promising to me as a consultant who works with community colleges, philanthropies, state government, state agencies all over the country, is that the faculty and the staff and the administration, student support services, faculty, freshman coordinators, and whatnot, have taken these kinds of rhetorical pronouncements that a lot of national leaders make to heart, and you've put them into practice. And that's to be applauded, to be recognized, and to be acknowledged. There are folks all over this country, from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, from the Lumina Foundation for Education, from the Joyce Foundation, people in President Obama's administration, the Department of Education, Department of Labor, that are looking for innovative practices in the classroom at institutions that can improve the success of students, particularly from low-income backgrounds, first-generation students. In other words, the kind of students that you serve at Queensborough Community Colleges. And I want to tell you, I am impressed with the work that you have been doing over the last year. I speak about the work that you're doing at Queensborough College, and I want you all to know that you're actually doing things when many other folks are just talking about it. And that's not to be undervalued. And I think all of you, if you don't know this already, need to hear that from someone like myself who's not affiliated with you all. I've got nothing to gain by telling you these things other than for you to know that this is important work and you are becoming and will become national leaders in this kind of effort, not just for community colleges, but for faculty, for staff, for administrators who care about student learning and student learning outcomes and assessment nationally. And know this is an important dynamic that you're doing. Continue your good work. Michelle Kalina, Dr. Kalina here, I'd like to let her just say a couple of words around assessment and learning, because she's been doing the day-to-day regular work with the faculty cohorts and may have a little bit more that she'd like to offer. But congratulations to all of you. I echo President Marti's comments, Arthur's comments, Dr. Call's comments, and the panels. Wow, just fantastic. It's hard work, and you should be congratulated for going after it.
I want to say it's been a real pleasure for me to be here. I want to say that all of you need to give yourself a round of applause. I've never worked with a faculty, and I've been in this business for well over 40 years now, that has engaged the way you have. We were here last week. Michelle Cuomo set up 2 5-hour workshops, and they were workshops for everybody who was there. We all went away exhausted, and because they had to remind us, we had to be reminded to take breaks. This work is being done here by faculty, and you have all engaged in that. And I am very heartened by what I hear today about how it is playing in Peoria, which means how it plays with your students. And the theme here is that the work you are doing to assess outcomes, to meet the standards for middle states, and which is a national movement, and you are well ahead of it because you now have actual evidence that students are doing well, is also having an effect on student learning. That it was David Rothman who said he used part of the CPE to evaluate one of his assignments, and students did better. They understood because David spent time working with them on the assessment, which is a way of teaching them what it is they have to know and do in order to reach a standard. Megan Elias echoed the same sentiment about the CPE and the effects it had on her students. And she said, well, they took it more seriously. But they also had to engage in what elements really constitute a good essay. And what is the standard? And how do I meet it? And what was interesting to me in this conversation is she gave them an opportunity to gain mastery by allowing them to do it again. And all but one did, and all of them did better because practice makes perfect. And part of it is that we are using this kind of assessment as a part of a conversation. It's an iterative process that invites students into the conversation. They know what the outcomes are. They know what they have to do to meet them. It's not a mystery. Some of us in this room are old enough to remember that students, when we were students, sometimes you thought the faculty member threw the papers up the stairs and, whatever the schema was, there was no rhyme or reason why certain grades were awarded. Here, students know up front what the outcomes are and what they need to do to achieve it. And if they don't want to work that hard, if they don't want to get an A, or excellent, they can work a little less and get a B, but at least it's their choice. They're part of that conversation, and they know where they are in a continuum of learning, particularly as you use them over time. Because if you use the CPE, and Megan and David really spoke to that very well, and one other person, I'm sorry, I wrote it down, but I don't have the name in my head right now. And that is that if you give students the opportunity to use the same rubric over time, then they can see where they're going and where they are in terms of their own learning process. I know that Margot spent a lot of time talking about her basic ed students in this process, and that on the CPE rubric in particular with basic ed students, they're not going to be 6s when they come out of Margot's classes. They can't. They're not there yet. But they can see where they are, how much progress they've made, and where they need to go and what they need to do to get there. And that's very important because you are making the student responsible for their own learning, and I applaud you for that. I also have to join Derek in saying you are doing work that's leading the nation. I've just been working with faculty in California, and interesting enough, guess what they're talking about doing? writing rubrics for English and math and science. And I said, and I hope you don't mind, they're not really proprietary. I said, I have some samples for you. Well, you would think. I had handed them a platter of gold bullion because they're so happy to have some samples from you. You are leading the way nationally. You are probably leading the way in terms of gathering evidence that students are learning and achieving, acquiring the skills that you want, the outcomes you want. And you're doing it, STEM people, in the areas that are very difficult, because I have people who say, oh, it's easy to do it when you've got, you're teaching your skill classes or you're teaching something that has like math and you can check the answer, but in liberal arts it's very difficult because we deal with concepts. You're doing it in liberal arts. You're doing it across the spectrum here. It's really exciting. I really want to urge all of you, as you experience this, to start writing it down. Dr. Marti has, I know, an interest in having people publish in the area of pedagogical research. You have something here that the field needs to hear. You really need to get it out there. And I know Margot talked a lot about rubrics are being done a lot in high schools. We don't have widespread use of them in post-secondary. I really urge you to write. I'm happy to edit or to help write, and most of you have my email, so you can do that. And I want to congratulate you for the work you've done. Thank you for the opportunity to work with you.
Before we wrap up for today, I just wanted to thank the following individuals whose work over many months has made today's event possible: Michelle Cuomo, Susan Madera, Victor Fiquera, and the whole Office of Academic Affairs, all the faculty coordinators and faculty cohorts, Vice President Hardigan, Susan Curtis, the freshman coordinators, and the whole Office of Student Affairs, Emil Parinello and the Office of Information Technology, and finally Derek Price and Michelle Kalina, with whom it has been a pleasure to work. Thanks to all of you. I hope you found today's event inspiring and motivational, and thank you very much for coming and having input and participating.